Hi everyone, in this video we're going to go through some Excel skills, and this is mainly related to the assignment you'll be doing. So I've picked some different data, but I'm going to do some very similar things. So if you're stuck with part of this, you can skip through to the part that you want to watch. Otherwise we're going to go through the whole thing. So the first thing I've got here in my Excel spreadsheet is all my data. Okay, this hasn't been sorted, it hasn't had anything done to it, it's just been copied in. Okay, and this data tells us how many hours people spent playing sport. So it's just a very generic question. It's just to give us an idea of what this data is about. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find out how many pieces of data that I actually have. So there's two ways we can do this. We can scroll down and we can see here my data finishes at 62 and it starts at 3. So we know that there's 60 pieces of data there. The other way we can do is a little formula equals count, and we can hold the mouse down and select all of these and it will count them for us. So there's 60 there. Okay, so to write any formula in Excel, the first thing you want to hit is the equals button. Okay, some of them I already know, some of them I can actually look up. So you can see up here in this little click box after I've pressed equals, this little list came up. So I can scroll down there. I can go to more functions if I want some other ones. And it's a little bit language, it's just trying to get used to the language, but there's heaps and heaps of formulas in there. So what I encourage you to do is, while you're getting used to the program, use words that you think would be a good kind of direction for a computer. So I want you to count this. You're going to try equals count. Okay, and you can see that that works. If you want to have a look at all the formulas, we can go up to the formulas tab up here. Okay, and there's some recently used ones, AutoSum, which we'll look at. We can look at some maths ones. So if you wanted to find, say, the cos of something or the sine of something, if you want to look up somewhere else, and more functions here. So statistics, that's going to be one we'll use a lot, and you should notice in that list there's one that will help us later as well. So I've counted up all my pieces of data. I've checked that there's 60, and I've checked back against the original question to make sure that there's meant to be 60 pieces of data. Okay. You can also check with someone else that's doing their assignment and make sure that they got the same number as you. The next way we can check if we've put our data in right is to find the sum of the data. Okay, so the sum of the data is it all totaled up. So if you put it all together, count them all up, if you added, say, 15 plus 15 plus 10 plus 6 plus 15 plus 6 plus 7, that is called the sum. Okay, so we put equals to get a formula, and we write sum. Okay, we open the bracket, and then I click and hold my mouse as I select all this data. Doesn't matter if you get a couple of blank ones, it won't count them. Close your bracket and press enter. And you can see that the sum of all my numbers added up is 504. So that's a way I can check that with someone else, and I can check that they got the same sum as I did. Another way I can check the data is to use the average. So I want the computer to find the average of the data. I'm going to go equals to tell it I want it to calculate something. I'm going to write average. Yep, that works. Open bracket. I'm going to select all of the data. Close the bracket, enter. So the average of my data is 8.4. So you can compare with other people. If you want some more decimal places, you go back to home and see this decimal place here. We can put some more decimal places in. So it is actually just 8.4. There's no rounding there. Right, so now we've had a look and made sure all our data's in there. Now we're going to start sorting. So I'm just going to delete this header out here because I put it in there and it's going to throw out my formulas. And I'm just going to get rid of those ones as well. Okay, so I've checked with a couple of friends and all our averages are the same and our sums are the same. Therefore, we've copied the data in exactly the same, and hopefully we haven't all made the exact same mistake. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to sort this data into ascending or descending order, which means that it's going to go from the lowest to the highest values for ascending, or from the highest to the lowest. So I'm going to select all this data. I'm just holding down my mouse Okay, and I'm going to go up the top here to data, and I'm going to go to the sort button. So we're going to sort from smallest to largest. If you selected the header in that, you'd tick my data has a header, but it doesn't here because I didn't select it, but you can, and you just go OK. So it sorted all the data. It starts to the lowest amount of sport that anyone played. Sorry, the least amount of sport anyone played was 0 hours. And you can see right down here, the most sport anyone played was 15 hours. So that goes all the way through. So that's how you sort your data. Some other things we're going to find all our kind of distribution information, which is the range, the mean, the median, and the mode. So we're going to start with range. There's two ways we can do it. We can scroll down the bottom. We know that the highest value is 15 and the lowest is 0, therefore the range is going to be 15. That one's pretty easy. It might not be as easy with the data you have. So let's see if we can come up with a formula. So we wanted to find the range. We're going to go equals to tell it we want a formula. And we're going to type range, not a formula. Okay, so we are going to we're going to think about what range means and some other ways around it. So I know that range is from the biggest value to the lowest value. So another way I can do is I can add or subtract cells. So if I knew that the range was from, say, the biggest one was 13 and the lowest one was 4, I could write equals 13 minus 4. Okay, so the range is 9. Here, I'm going to do it a little differently. I'm going to go equals. I'm going to find the cell with the biggest number in it. And I'm going to take away from that the cell with the littlest number in it, which is over here. Okay, so I've just clicked on those cells to select them, and that will give me my range of 15. So it's a bit pointless when your data is that easy. You can just like manually calculate it, but when your data gets a bit bigger, it's a really good tool to use. So the other thing we're going to find is the mean. So I'm just labeling as I go along here so that you know what's what, because your assignment's going to get very big and it's going to get very complicated and you need to have everything labeled so you know what's going on. So the mean. Well, let's see, is there a formula mean equals mean? No, there's not. So we're going to think about, well, what does mean mean? And mean, it means the same as average. We've got a formula for that. So equals tells us we're going to give it a formula. We write formula, we open the bracket, and we're going to select all this data. Now, if you were to do this manually, you'd have to go 0 plus 0 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 all the way up, and then divide it by 60. This just gives us the average, which is 8.4. Okay, so lots quicker, especially when you're using heaps of data. Another way you can do it is you can go equals average, open bracket, you can just select the whole column, and it will do the same thing. Okay, so I'll just show you that again a bit slower. I click through that a bit quick. So equals average, open your bracket, select the column by clicking on it, close bracket, equals. So just make sure that if you're doing that, that your data is all in the same column and there's nothing else in the column, because if there's something else in the column, it's going to count that too. So what else can we do? We want to find the median. So again, two ways. We can count all the way down and try and find the 30, between the 30 and the 31st piece of data. Or let's see if there's a formula. So equals median. Yes, there is. Open bracket. I'm just going to select the whole thing. Close bracket. Sort. So the median is 9. Okay, so formulas make it a lot quicker. And when you get used to them, they're really, really handy. So mode. Let's find the most popular one. Equals mode. Oh, looking good. Selecting all my data. Again, you can use the columns. You can use two different ways. Close my bracket, equals. So the most common piece of data is 9. So most people spend 9 hours playing sport. And you can see that there's quite a few of them. Okay, so those are the formulas for range, mean, median, and mode. And as you can see, when you've got a lot of data, they make things a lot easier. So our spreadsheet's looking a little bit boring. If you looked at that, or if you showed that to someone, say in grade 7 or one of your family members, it probably wouldn't mean much to them. So we're going to represent this data in a graphical or a visual way to make it easier for them to understand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the data that I want to talk about, and I'm going to select just that column because all my data is in there. I don't need this kind of thing because that'll confuse it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Insert, and you can see here there's lots of different charts. Now the best part of these charts is the recommended charts, and this shows you the charts that would be good for this kind of data. So later on we're going to put this in a frequency table, and that suits different charts better, but just for raw data like that, this is what it recommends. You could use a scatter, you could use a line graph, clustered columns. No idea what Pareto means. I'd say that's like a histogram, okay, and the cumulative frequency going up there. So I might use for this one, let's go with scatter plot, and I'm just going to hit OK. So you can see it gives me the scatter plot there, but if I just showed that to someone, they wouldn't really know what I'm talking about. So I have to change my label, and I change it to something like number of hours spent playing sport. Okay. I can also change this around. I can click on the whole thing and click to change kind of the overall thing. So I could make it all cool looking. I could make it colorful. I could make it blue. Okay, so there's lots of different things you can do with the style. You can also pick the color. Okay, so you can pick sets here. You might make it all yellow. You might make it all blue. You might make it all green. You might make it monochrome. Okay. And there's a couple of other things too. So we can click on, say, the dots. That's what I've just shown you. And change them that way as well. So if I click on the background here, there we go. Sorry, it's a double click. This comes up on the side. So we can fill it using different colors. Okay, so I can double click on the back part and I can fill it using different colors. And you can kind of make up what you want, really. Double click on here. I'm going to make the writing orange. Okay, so you can play around with the colors, and in your assignment it asks you to make it certain colors just so you get a bit of a feel for that. You can also look at the text options and fill the text options, okay, and change it all around. So you want something that's really clear and easy to read, and that wouldn't be a good one there because you can see that's very difficult to see the title. So let's have a look at some different ones. So before I do any other graphs, I'm just going to pop this over here. I'm going to make a frequency distribution table, okay? And I'm going to do that using a couple of different things. So I'm going to get, how many pieces have I got? I've got 15 pieces of data. So I'm going to put a class size, and I'm going to make that class size 3. Okay, so I need a title first of all. Number of hours, actually I won't put that there, I'll put that in a bit. Let's go class size. So from 0 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, 9 to 12, you can see what it's doing to me, I'll fix that in a minute, 12 to 15. So I'm just going to change these, it's putting them as dates. What you need to do is select it and go up from here. It tries to help you, sometimes it's not very helpful. And instead of it being general, which means it's going to guess what you want it to do, you're going to change it to something else. So it's doing it in date at the moment. You can change it to number or text. Either one is fine. So I just have to redo that. So if you do that first, oh, it's like that. Okay, I'm going to put it in text. So text, it will just put exactly what you write. 0 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, 9 to 12, 12 to 15. So those are my class sizes. And I can pop them in the middle like that to make it look a bit nicer. And then I'm going to say how many are in each. So how I'm going to do that, I'm going to select from 0 to 3. And what you can't see outside of my screen there, let me just move it up a little bit. Ooh. I can't show you. Just down here, right under where my mouse is, it says average, it says count, and it says sum. So you can have a look at the count if you select everything. you can have a look at the count, and for mine it says 9, so there's 9 between 0 and 3. Obviously, when you do this, you're going to think about your class sizes. 3 is falling into both there, so 6. You're going to make yours 0 and less than 3, 3 and less than 6. Okay, I'm going to include 3 in this one. From 3 to 6, I'm going to select it. I'm going to look again down here where you can't see, and it says count 12. Okay, and I'm going to work my way through. So 6 to 9, the 6 have already been counted. That says 15. From 9 to 12, we've already counted the 9s. That's 10. And from 12 to 15, I've already counted the 12, so I'm going to go down here, and that says 14. So just to check, I'm going to select them all. I'm going to again look down here, and it says sum equals 60, which is good. It means I've got all the data included in there. Okay, so number of people. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take this frequency distribution table, which is terrible looking, and I hope yours looks a lot better with titles and lots of nice things, and I'm going to select it. Okay, and I'm going to go back into my insert and my recommended charts, and I'm going to see that a lot of different things have popped up. So the column graph, like a histogram, except there's gaps between it. There's a pie chart, which is a lot of people know how to read that. It's quite an easy one to read. And there's a bar graph as well. So you can select different ones. I'm going to pick pie graph just because it's cool looking. Okay, and you can see it there. So I'm going to make sure that it makes sense. So number of people doesn't make much sense. I'm going to go number of hours playing sport. And you can see down here, 0 to 3, 3 to 6, that doesn't make much sense either. So there's a couple of ways I can change that. I can go back into my data here, and instead of 0 to 3, I can make it 0 to 3 hours, 3 to 6 hours, 6 to 9 hours. See how that makes a lot more sense? So if I copied and pasted this somewhere or took it out, it would make sense without all this data here. Okay, so, yeah, so you can see there, most of the people, help if I hadn't deleted it all. Most of the people spend 6 to 9 hours playing sport. The least amount would probably be here, 0 to 3 hours, which is good. People are healthy, and that tells you a lot. So the same thing, you can double click on maybe a part of it and change that slice to grey and this slice to orange. You can click on the background, you can change that, you can make it a pattern, you can make it blue. So you can really fiddle around, but to get into that menu here, it's a double click. Okay, so that should give you a pretty good overview of all the different charts. If you want to insert something that's not there, you don't go to the recommended charts, you can just go to all charts. Okay, and you can pick whatever you want. There's heaps in there, but some will work really well with the data that you've got, and some will just look horrible. So make sure that you kind of step away from it and have a look and make sure that your graph makes sense. And if not, you might need to pick a different one. Okay, so the only last thing I need to show you is if you want to copy these graphs to somewhere else, you just click on them like that. You can right click and go copy, or you can press Control-C and then just paste them wherever you like. But make sure you've got them looking the way you want them in Excel before you export them. All right, good luck.